up, Cokesbury Online? We are so glad you're here wherever you're watching, whenever you are watching. Welcome. I'm glad you're hanging out with us. We are week 3 into our series called Into the Wild, and we have Mark Beebe here with us. We're glad that he's here. Hey, guess what? We want you to download that app. We want you to stay super connected with us wherever you are, because guess what? We're also in person every Sunday, 10 a.m., North and South campuses, and that's where you reserve your spot, is on the app. So, hey, Emery, let's sing this song together. Here's a song, There's Nothing That Our God Can't Do.
Just one word, you calm the storm that surrounds me. Just one word, the darkness has to retreat. In just one touch, I feel the presence of heaven. In just one touch, my eyes were open to see, my heart can't help but believe. There's nothing that our God can't do. There's not a mountain that He can't move. Oh, praise the name that makes a way. There's nothing that our God can't do. One word, you heal what's broken inside me. Yeah, just one word, and you revive every dream. Yeah. Oh, and just one touch, I feel the power of heaven. And just one touch, my eyes were open to see, my heart can't help but believe. There's nothing that our God can't do. There's not a mountain that He can't move. Oh, praise the name that makes a way. There's nothing that our God can't do. Yeah, there's nothing that our God can't do. There's not a prison wall He can't break through. Oh, praise the name that makes a way. There's nothing that our God can't do. God, you can do it all, God. You can do it all. I will believe for greater things. There's no power like the power of Jesus. Let faith arise, let all agree. There's no power like the power of Jesus. I will believe for greater things. There's no power like the power of Jesus. Let faith arise, let all agree. There's no power like the power of Jesus. I will believe for greater things. There's no power like the power of Jesus. Let faith arise, let all agree. There's no power like His power. There's nothing that our God can't do. It's not a mountain that He can't move.
have said this so many times, but I can't say it enough. Thank you, thank you, thank you for the amount of support you guys have shown to Cokesbury through these crazy times. I love that we're a church of next steps, and another next step that you can take here at Cokesbury is by giving. And there are 4 different ways that you can give. You can give on cokesbury.tv, you can mail it in, you can give it on our app, and also you can make it super simple and just text to give to the number at the bottom of the screen. We love that you guys are just loving on us continually through these times, and you're doing so much good work through Fig Tree and Manna House and all the other projects that we're doing. You guys are making that happen. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Let's send it over to the band one more time.
Like a rushing wind, would you breathe within my heart? Through the raging storm, would you hold me in your arms? 'Cause I need you. I need you. I need your love like I need water. I need your love like I need breath. Inside my lungs, burn in my heart just like a fire. Come and take me over. Jesus, draw me closer to your heart. Yeah. Through the wind and rain, I can hear you call my name, nights get rough, I will still sing out your praise. 'Cause I need you. How I need you. I need your love like I need water. I need your love like than anything I've tasted. I wanna know your heart. I wanna know your heart. So hi, I'm Mark Beebe. It's good to be with you. I'm one of the pastors of Cokesbury. I work principally with Recovery Ministries. We do that on Thursday nights. If you know somebody that's struggling with something in their life bigger than they are, I would encourage you to bring them with you to Recovery on Thursdays. We start with dinner at 5:30. It runs from 5:30 to 6:30. And we start worship at 6:30 and we run to 7:30. And then our open share groups, there's a wide variety of those, start at 7:45. We also, every Thursday night, do a group that we call Family and Friends Compulsion Education. And that group is designed for people that are struggling with someone in their life who has something bigger than they are. And we go through a series of talks about how we can best help you to create balance for yourself and be the most help, how you can be the most help to someone that is this person in your life that is struggling. We also run that Family and Friends group on Monday nights at 7 o'clock on a Zoom meeting. And to find that link, you can go to recovery@cokesbury.com, get help now, and you'll see the link, the Zoom link for the Family and Friends group. But I'm glad to be able to be with you this morning. We have been in the middle of a series about what is it like when God's people started to live in the wild. And we're talking about a story from Scripture that has to do with the people of God having been held captive in Egypt, and God decides finally that he's going to set them free. And so he uses a guy, Moses, and some other people to accomplish that. And where we kind of pick up the story is when the people of God are free from Egypt and they are living in a wilderness place. They're living in the wild, and God is trying to teach them lessons that principally revolve around one question: are you gonna be able to trust me? Are you gonna be able to trust me? And he creates and allows for adversity along the way in this storyline to give them the opportunity to build and develop trust in him. Because what God is telling them is, you know, this wilderness is just one of the wilderness experiences you're probably going to have in your life. And that's true for all of us, isn't it? It's like we all find ourselves in lost places. You know, we all find ourselves in difficult experiences. We all find ourselves being overwhelmed. And are we gonna accept, and more importantly, are we gonna trust God's direction? And then another piece of that is, are we gonna trust God's direction when it doesn't seem like, to us, we know what the end is gonna be like, and it doesn't seem like we think he knows what the end is going to be like, and we're not sure if we like the direction that he's taking us, and maybe we even think we have a better way. All that is happening in these stories about the people of God walking around with him in the wild. So God's direction is going to show up, that question is going to show up in the story that we're going to get into today. And so I put up two pictures. The first one is a picture of like the equivalent, I don't know if that's the actual one or not, but it's the equivalent of a Spaghetti Junction in Atlanta, which is like 2 million freeways going over top of, underneath, around, through each other, trying to get you on the right freeway to get to the right place that you want to go to, the place, the right direction of where you want to go. So that's the first picture. And then the next picture is a picture, at least in theory, of one of the longest straight roads in the world. And one of those, at least in the world, the top 10 is out west, and this may be a picture of that, I don't know, but the longest, straightest road. And the question is, for you and for me, it's going to be true probably that when we see God start to really lead us, because we love to be in charge, and we love to be in control, and we love to be our own bosses. You know, when God first starts moving in our lives, when God first starts trying to lead us and we're walking with him, which is the only choice
the people of God had when they were out in the wilds with him, because they didn't know where they were going, because they had never been there before. Well, we look at God's direction in a lot of ways, I think, like that spaghetti junction, like, God, it really looks like you're kind of aimless. I mean, I have this problem in my life. I have this issue going on in my life. I have this thing going on that's tough for me. I don't really know how to get through it on my own. I came and I asked you for help. And now, when you're supposedly leading me and you're supposedly walking with me, I mean, you're not doing a very good job, because, like, the thing is, I don't know where you're going. And I don't know where we're going to end. And so, like, since the unspoken piece of that is, since I don't know God, well, I'm going to assume that you don't know. Since I'm not convinced that you know what you're doing, and I'm not convinced because you haven't let me in on how this is going to end, I'm not sure if you know what you're doing. I'm not sure, back to our original theme, I'm not sure if I trust you. If you would just tell me how this is going to work and where we're going to go and give me a snapshot of how this is going to end, I'd be good. But, like, you're not doing that. You're basically saying every day you're waking up and you're telling me, and I'm waking up to you and you're telling me, well, you know what? Today you need to trust me. I know, but, like, where are we going? Well, I need you to trust me. It's really frustrating for us as a people that are consumed with our own will to be able to handle that. And when we get in the hardest places of our lives, the truth is we're going to have to rely on the direction of God, because we're not going to be able to solve what is in front of us on our own. We don't like that. We don't like any sense of having to really, when the chips are down, depend on God or honestly or anybody else. But we're in that place. And so for us, it looks like the spaghetti junction deal, but for God, it looks like a completely straight road. Because, see, God isn't confused at all. God knows exactly where he's heading. God knows exactly where he wants to lead you. God knows exactly what the path to your health and fullness and wellness and peace and release really is. You might not know, but he knows. And see, the thing about God is, part of your healing is learning to allow him to take your hand and learning to walk around with him without knowing the end. So that's kind of where we're going to pick up the particular story for today. So Exodus 17 is where we're going to start. It says, at the Lord's command, the whole community of Israel, all the people of God, people that left Egypt, left the wilderness of sin, which is Sinai, not like sin, and moved, get this, from place to place. So, like, you can imagine if they're like us, they're hating it. Like, they don't like the vagabond life. They don't like the impracticality of the vagabond life. They don't like the idea that spiritually they got to get up every morning and God is going to provide them with daily food, and they don't have anything in their refrigerator, and they don't have any fallback, and they've got to trust him. And they really don't like the fact that on a regular basis, God is going, get up, time to go. It's like, no, God, I have built my own life. I've established my own relationships. I have my own way of producing income. I have my own way of doing what I do on the weekends. And God, what I need you to do in my life is I need you to bless what I have already built. And I need you to give me an assist with what I have already built. That's what I need you to do, God. I don't need you to meddle in my affairs. But see, you can imagine day after day after day of being in the wilderness like that, being in the wild, and the anxiety and eventually the anger at God building up over, why aren't you showing us what the plan is, and why can't we just stay put? Why do we always keep moving? But it says God was moving them around from place to place. He did that for a purpose. What was the purpose? It wasn't just to create. It really honestly was. It was not just to jack them up. It wasn't. This is what it was about. It was about showing them and showing us that the principal issue, the principal problem with wilderness life, The principal problem with life in the wild is dependence. It's having to be dependent on God. Like, we're all aces in our prayer life at telling somebody else, like, this became so overwhelming, this particular relationship or whatever it is, health issue, money issue, whatever. It became so overwhelming, like I turned it over to God. Did you? Because if you did, you were not enjoying that. Whatever we turn over to God, we turn over kind of like what it would be like if you had a baseball bat in your hands and you were ready to hit a pitch, and somebody walked out there to you and they said in the batter's box, and they go, "Here, I want to release your grip from that bat." You're like, "What are you talking about?" It's like lining yourself up for a perfect golf shot. And you've got the perfect grip. You've got the club just exactly the way, your golf pro, your golf coach told you to hold that club, right? It might even be a new grip. And someone goes, I want you to release your grip from that club. I want you to release your grip from your daughter. I want you to release your grip from your son. I want you to release your grip from your marriage. I want you to release your grip from your future. Like, what is that like for us when God is asking us to trust him, when the emotional road right then looks like that spaghetti junction, but the actual road that God has you on looks like that one of those longest, straightest roads in the world? Our problem really is about the anxiety of dependence. But if you go back through these stories that we've been working on of the people of God being in the wild, did God ever put them at risk? No. Did God ever not provide for them? No. Did God ever leave them in a place of vulnerability? Only to teach them more about trust in him. No other way. Did God look out for their safety? Yes. Was God the daily provider of bread and food? Yes. Was God the daily provider of direction? Yes. Was God moving on them, trying to show them what it was like for their hearts to belong to him, so that once that exchange occurred, they would be finally free? Yes. This story is also a story about following. What is it going to be like when we don't follow our will, but we follow the direction that God has for us, that is trying to lead us to what Jesus talks about in the Gospel of John? I come here to be with you, Jesus says, in order to give you one simple thing. And that is a full life, a free life, an abundant life, a rich life, a complete life. But to do that, we got to learn how to deal with dependency on God, trusting God, and following him. And the question is, how do you get to that place of trust? Is it true that in the end, it's going to be Jesus that provides that basis for trust? Is it going to be that in the end, Jesus provides the credentials that God is showing you that are going to give you the opportunity to trust? And was that true all along, even from the beginning of God establishing creation? So we're going to go on with the story. It says, eventually, they all stopped and camped at a place called Rephidim. But here's the problem. There was no water there for the people to drink. So once more, this has now happened 771 million times so far, just in us doing this storyline of them being in the wilderness. So once again, the people of God do what? They say, God, you know what? You've shown to us before over and over again in these last weeks, months, years, how you've taken care of us. God, we've seen the way you fed us every day. God, you've been really good to us. And you know what, God? Whatever you say, we trust you. They don't say that at all. Because we're a live by the second bunch of people, aren't we? We're really spiritually, we're really much more of a what have you done for me lately people than we are any other kind of people. We're not very good at remembering. We're not very good at retaining. We're not good at allowing our history with God to build our future confidence. We're good at what God is doing for us immediately to build our immediate confidence. So once more it says the people of God complained against Moses, and actually really against God. When they talked to Moses, they're really trying to talk to God. Give us water to drink, they demanded. Give us water to drink, they demanded. See, here's the thing. A demand in and of itself is complete evidence of a lack of trust. A demand in and of itself is complete evidence of a lack of trust. It's like one thing in a prayer, in your prayer life, when you're talking to God, to go, you know what, God, I am as sure as I can possibly be that this is what I need in my life, and I really want to ask you to bring that about, make that happen. It's something else to go, God, you know what, I know what I need, and I don't really care if you know what I need or not, and I'm not very interested in your ideas or your direction or your taking me by the hand or your leadership. What I want you to do is deliver the goods. I want you to deliver the goods. I don't want to talk to you about it. I want you to deliver the goods. And if you don't deliver the goods, you're not worthy of my trust. That's a demand. And see, by just saying it that way says, I don't really believe, God, that you are who you say you are. I don't really believe in what you have done for me along the way, and I don't really believe that you're going to get it done, because I have to demand from you what it is that I want. I'm not willing to let you show me what it is that I need. I know. I'm going to demand from you what it is I want you to do and tell you what I want. And then, if you're any kind of a God at all, you're going to do it. We have to deal with that piece of our lives where we're demand-oriented and we really think that God lives with us and is in a relationship with us as if he's Amazon or whatever. Because if we don't deal with that, what's going to happen is the enemy is going to be very adept at using that to create a big barricade between you and God or me and God. And the way he's going to do it is to go, God isn't really worthy of your trust, and God isn't really worthy of your worship, and God isn't really worthy of leading you, because look, he did not deliver what you needed. You see? You remember? He didn't do that. You needed this, he didn't do it. And then the next piece of that will be, he wasn't there. And then the next piece of that will be, and I don't need him. Truth of that is, how did God design you and me? Well, he designed us, one, to be in a fellowship relationship with him, and two, he designed us to worship him. And in our worship, not just like Sunday morning worship, but in our worship, in our adoration of him, in our joy about him, in our confidence in him, all that's worship. We're supposed to draw other people to him. So Moses, he responds to their demands. Quiet, Moses says. Why are you complaining against me? And here's the clearer part. And why are you testing the Lord? Why are you testing God? And see, here's the deal. If you're not in the middle of a test today in your life, you're going to be. So that's what makes this so important. What are you going to do when those tests start to show up? And what is being tested with God isn't whether God is a good deliverer. It isn't whether God is a good producer. It isn't whether God is a good Amazon. What is being tested with God is, can you, do you, will you trust him? Regardless of circumstances, and because sometimes of circumstances. What is going to be tested with God is always going to be about your level of trust. So Exodus goes on. Exodus 17:3, and it says, but tormented by thirst, they continued to argue and fight with Moses. Why? This is another repeat performance they keep talking about. They keep trying to go back to where even though they were in slavery, even though they were slaves. Like, we know a lot about slavery. We might not know it the way they did, but we know a lot about emotional slavery. We know a lot about physical slavery. We know plenty about spiritual, mental slavery. They go to God. They go to God through Moses. You know what? You screwed up. You should have left us as slaves. At least when we were slaves, we understood the gig. At least when we were in the middle of that relationship, where we were bound up as slaves, where we couldn't come and go as we wanted to, where we couldn't talk to the God we wanted to talk to. At least then, we were in control. At least then, we knew what we were doing with our lives. At least then, we had some kind of a squirreled away fallback of food or whatever. Why'd you bring us out here to Egypt? Why did you bring us out of Egypt? Why'd you bring us over here into this wilderness? What are you trying to do? Are you trying to kill us? Are you trying to kill our children? Are you trying to kill our livestock by not giving us any water? I mean, Moses, AKA God, why are you putting us at risk? And the question is, in this story, when it feels like God is putting you at an unbelievable risk, when it feels like God isn't there for you, when it feels like you can't trust what God is going to do next, you got to ask yourself this question. Am I going back and looking at places in my life where God has already delivered for me? Am I trusting the history of God in my life? Am I trusting the way that God has loved for me and cared for me all throughout my life? And if I simply am at a place in my life where I cannot see clearly any circumstance because I'm in such a negative place where God has really done that for me, then I got to go back to the cross and I got to go, I'm going to sit at the foot of the cross. I'm going to sit right there with Jesus, and I'm going to remember that Jesus on this cross was about Mark Beebe. He died on that cross for me. He took the stuff off of my life and put it onto and into his body and hung on the cross and died to set me free. See, that's the promise that we're seeing unfold all the way back there in Exodus, is the problem of God redeeming and setting free people. But you can see what it's like, the power of vulnerability, can't you? You can see what the power of vulnerability is like. Examining our thirst is really about the stuff that makes us thirsty, and it's not obviously just water. Examining our thirst is really about examining our vulnerability. We don't like it. We don't like having to trust this God who's going to come out of the middle of the wilds and provide for us. Because to this day, where they are, even though they're now complaining for the umpteen millionth time, never one time while they've been out there together, these guys and God, has God ever let them down. Never one time has God not provided for them. Never one time has God blown it. But they keep complaining because they don't trust anybody other than themselves and their own resources. And see, like, as long as we're in that place spiritually, I don't care what is going on in your life, you're going to struggle. And you're going to find yourself feeling unbelievably alone. Unbelievably alone. Because you don't like the vulnerability of having God say what he's always said to you. I'm going to be your God, and you're going to be my people. There are consequences with God being our God. And there are consequences with us being the people of God. Because in that relationship between us and God, like, we're not equals. You know, we go to God, man, and we don't know where we're going. It feels like that spaghetti junction thing. God, you got to tell us where we're going. God goes, we're just going to keep driving. I don't got to tell you where we're going. Because I know where we're going. And I know at the end for you it's going to be good. And I know I'm going to take care of you. And that's all you need to know. Man, we don't like that. We don't like that vulnerability. So then Moses gets into it with God. Story continues. Moses cries out to the Lord, what should I do with these people? They're ready to kill me, God. The the Lord says to Moses, walk out in front of the people. Take your staff, the one you used when you struck the water of the Nile. See, in that story, while God was in the work of setting them free, Moses takes this same stick that he's talking about, the same staff, he calls it, slaps the water of the river Nile, and it all becomes blood. And that's happening because God is trying to convince the boss man of Egypt, Pharaoh, to let the people of God go. So he goes, take that same staff, the one that you used to create blood in the Nile, and call some of the elders of the church, the elders of Israel, of the nation, the people that are walking around with you, call them together to be with you. He goes, I will stand back before you on the rock at Mount Sinai. I'm going to strike the rock, and the water is going to come gushing out of the rock. And then the people are going to be able to drink. Like, why a rock? Why doesn't God go, look at, if you go 77 feet this way and 2.5 miles that way and 4 miles that way, you're going to find a underground stream that comes up right here, and you're going to find all the fresh water you could possibly need. Why doesn't God do that? Why doesn't he say, there's a little reservoir over here, if you just go over there, you're going to find fresh water? Why doesn't he say, well, that's brackish water, but you know what, I'll go over there and I'll tap on it and I'll make it fresh water? Why doesn't God say that? No, he picks a rock. Why a rock? Because in the desert, a rock is far and away the hardest, toughest, most hard to get inside of object that there is, right? There is nothing harder. Why a rock? Well, because the point of the story is we're the rocks. Like all of us, we're the rocks. We like thinking of ourselves as being rocks. We like thinking of ourselves as being independent. We like thinking of ourselves as being self-secure. We like thinking of ourselves as being able to, quote, hold our water. You know, we like being able to go, I hold my stuff inside. Nobody really knows what's going on with me. We like being able to be external tough guys, tough people. We like it. We like taking care of ourselves. And God's like, I think I'll pick a rock. Why pick a rock? Well, because number one, yes, hardest surface in the desert. Let's make a point about level of difficulty and the way I love you and the way I'm going to care for you and how easy it is for me to sustain you and provide for you. So I'll pick the hardest thing to do it. That ought to tell us something. That ought to speak to us about the way God accepts challenges that we bring to him. That ought to speak to us about how much he cares for us. That ought to speak to us also, though, about his loving authority and his loving power and his loving healing. If you're on the run from God right now today, you're the rock. You are the rock. You're made of 90% water, but the water inside of you is slowly drying up. If you're a Christian, when you were baptized, God put living water into you. Living water, the living water of Jesus was inside of you, freely able to gush out. But now, if you shut yourself off, you've said, you know what, I don't want that living water. I think I'll use this brackish water in my life. I think I'll use that. Rather than go to God and say, God, I need to release the living water. And let me tell you, like if you haven't met Jesus and you haven't given your life to him and you're thinking about it, I want to challenge you to do it. Do it today. Do it now. Get baptized. Get the living water of Jesus inside of you so that the free-flowing love of God in Jesus Christ is coming out of you every day, and you're never going to feel thirsty again. That was the promise in John. Jesus goes, I am living water, and if you drink from my water, you will never be thirsty again. If the people of God out there in the desert would have been drinking from the water of God, they would have not been thirsty. But they were relying on themselves. That's why a rock. So, hardest surface in the desert, God's making that point. Secondly, us. were like the rocks. So it says Moses struck the rock, and as he was told, and guess what happened? Water gushed out as the elders looked on. What's your rock? That's my question today. What have you decided you have covered with so much hard surface? What pain in your life is there right now that you have covered with so much hard surface that you are not going to let God or anybody else get there? Because that secret, that piece of your life is what is causing you all kinds of struggles and taking away from you all kinds of energy and vastly limiting that abundant life, that free life, that full life that God has promised to you. Here's a great quote from somebody, maybe some kind of bishop used this quote. I don't know who said this. But this is what it says. When we come to the end of ourselves, we begin to discover who God is. I mean, like today, my prayer would be that for all of us is like we figure out how to come, quote, to the end of ourselves, end quote, a whole lot quicker. Like a whole lot quicker. Could we just expend all of our energy? Could we just get it all done? It's like watching, watching my grandson. I saw him last weekend, I watched him have a full-fledged little pout session at a park. And so he wanted to do one thing, and his mom didn't want to do it. It was really about some other boys were there, and he had taken this kid's football, and my daughter said, you got to get it back, and you got to ask him, can you use your football? And of course, he had a fit about that. He just couldn't figure out why he had to do all that, and he thought it was his turn, et cetera, et cetera. So he stood over on the corner of the park, away from all of us, and he just had a full-on pout. Full-on pout. I mean, you know what? In your relationship with God and your relationship with Jesus, if you got to have a full-on pout, hurry up and do it. Hurry up and do it, because the sooner you get through exhausting all of your resources and playing out all of your schemes and plots and ideas and brilliance, the quicker you're going to discover who God is and who Jesus is in your life. And you're going to begin to experience that living water that is so, so good to taste. Once you really taste the living water of Jesus in your life, I'm telling you, you're not going to want to drink any other kind of water. So Exodus 17 goes on, and it goes, so Moses, after that experience, Moses named the place Massah, which means test, and Meribah, which means arguing. Because that is what the people of God did. They argued with Moses, and they tested the Lord by saying, is the Lord here with us or not? And maybe they didn't really know the question they were asking, but they got it right. The question really wasn't, is God doing what we want him to do for us or not? The question they asked, and like I said, maybe they stumbled into it, but is God here with us or not? We're good. We're good with the idea of God doing stuff in our lives. We're good with the idea of God fixing stuff in our lives, being our handyman. We're good with God delivering the Amazon equivalent stuff that we want in our lives. We're very good at being grateful, quote, and thankful for all of that. But see, that takes us to a relatively shallow, intermittent, temporary kind of relationship with Jesus and with God. Here's the deeper relationship. It doesn't matter what happens. It doesn't matter what I'm going through. It doesn't matter what the level of difficulty is. It doesn't matter whether I've never been here before or I've been here 10 million times before. You know what matters? It doesn't matter whether I can see the end of the story. It doesn't matter whether I can see the solution. What matters is that I trust and that I believe that God is with me. That I trust and that I believe that God is with me. Because if God is with me, and if God is holding me, and if that cross of Jesus was for me and about me, and if the promise of living water is for me and about me, and if the promise of a free, full life is for me and about me, then what I need to do, all I need to do, is start my day and end my day holding the hand of Jesus and walking with him, because I know that despite what else apparently life seems to be telling me, the truth of what Jesus is telling me is, I'm here with you. And I'm never going to leave you. And I'm never going to walk away from you. And I'm never going to quit on you. And I'm always going to be on your side. Like, that story is a freedom story. And that story is a healing story. And that story is a confidence story. And that story is a hope story. Listen, thanks so much for being here. Good to be with you in Jesus' sweet name. Amen.
Before I even knew what love was, you've brought me here to rest. Give me space to breathe, so I'll stay still until it sinks in. And I will lean back in the loving arms of a beautiful Father. Breathe deep and know that He's good. He's a love like no other. You will never leave. Your love sustaining me. Before I even knew what love was, you brought me here to rest, in giving me space to breathe, so I'll stay still until it sinks in. Lean back in the loving arms of a beautiful Father. Breathe deep and know that He's good. He's a love like no other. I will lean back, sing that again. And I will lean back in the loving arms can see your love is better than the others that I've seen. I'm breathing deep all of your goodness, your loving kindness to me. How I can see, oh, your love is better. Your love is better than I see. And I'm breathing deep all of your goodness, your loving kindness to me. Now I can see your love is better. Your love is better than the others. I'm breathing deep. I'm breathing deep. All of your goodness, your goodness, your loving kindness. I'm breathing. I'm breathing. Come on. I'm breathing. I'm breathing. I'm breathing. I'm breathing. Oh, I'm breathing. I'm breathing. I'm breathing. I'm breathing. I'm breathing. I will lean back in the loving arms of a beautiful Father. Breathe deep and know that He is good. He's a love like no